Everyone, welcome back to another video. In this video, we are going to do another lab from Pwned Labs, specifically the file upload XXE to initial access. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive into it. One kind of advertisement real quick. Hey, if you've never heard of Pwned Labs, you need to check it out. This is the best platform, hands down, if you want to learn Azure, AWS, and GCP pen testing, and I really do mean that. There's other platforms that offer similar things, but none of them come to the level of quality that you find on Pwned Labs or the affordability that you have on Pwned Labs. There's over 30 completely free labs. You can sign up with the free account right now and do those, and then a premium subscription is only $20 a month or $200 a year, which will give you access to everything. This one right here, I believe, is a premium subscription lab. So if you do not have a premium sub, you will not be able to follow along, although you can do it vicariously through me, and it'll be like, hey, we're sitting down together, I'm sharing with you my subscription, and I'm walking you through this lab, and we're doing this lab together. So let's go ahead and get our notes set up. We have file upload XXE to initial access, so that kind of gives us a hint of what we're probably going to be doing, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. We'll just call it file upload XXE in our notes, and let's document some of this information. So we have our IP address here, so we'll just go ahead and say our target. That's our initial target right there. We'll make that H1, and let's see what our scenario or scope information is. So keen to diversifying their business, Huge Logistics has recently launched a new data and analytics processing unit to service new and existing customers. The development time was working under significant time pressures due to deadlines set by upper management. Dang upper management. Can you perform an assessment of their new data processing system and show why security should be backed into the should be back into the development process? Yeah, at least I think we can. Let's give it a shot. We'll type in our scenario here, and we are given that initial IP. I'm guessing there's a web server running on it, but let's do our due diligence and begin by scanning the IP. It is a public IP, so we should be able to hit it. Oh, do I need to jump? Maybe I do need to jump on the VPN to be whitelisted. Let me jump on the VPN real quick. VPN, what is my user on here? Geez, I don't even know. Is it Tyler Ramsbey? All right, there we go. VPN will also do a new one for Pwned Labs, CD home, Tyler, Pwned Labs, to make a directory called, I don't know, file. We'll do XXE file upload, and we'll head over to that directory. And now, are we able to hit this at all? Maybe it doesn't respond to pings. Okay, no, it just doesn't respond to ping, so that's fine. So we'll do rust scan-a, we'll drop it in there, and then I want to pass it over to nmap with that flag. What this is doing is going to use rust scan first to scan all the ports on our target host, and whatever open ports are there, it's going to pass it over to nmap, and nmap's going to run the -A flag on the open ports. If you're new to nmap, that just means, hey, throw all the enumeration scripts we can at whatever ports are open so we can get as much information as possible. But we do see right away we have a web server open, so let's go ahead and get Cato open. If you've never heard of Cato, it's sort of like a much more affordable version of Burp Suite Pro Edition, but written from the ground up in Rust and relatively new software. I like to support new devs, so that's why we are going to use it. There we go. Taking a second to launch, but we'll get it pulled up. In the meantime, how's this going? Still doing its thing, so I guess while I wait for Cato, which it doesn't usually take this long, we'll give it a second, but we'll just navigate over to this website and see what is on it. So Huge Logistics, your data, our responsibility. Efficient storage, seamless logistics, our commitment to your data. And let me get this started. I'm going to go ahead and create a project, and we'll call this XXE file upload, just so we start from scratch. And I'm going to throw that over to the side, throw Firefox over to this side, and we'll just leave forwarding off for now, but we'll look at what we have. So they handle a large volume of data and documentation related to supply chain, tracking, shipping, warehousing, and more. We've created this service in order to save storage space, blah, 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 blah. So all of those are static links, although we do see an upload page. And knowing that it's called file upload to XXE, we can kind of guess what we might be doing, but we'll go ahead and test a few different things and try to manually discover what is going on. But let's go ahead and grab a screenshot of this. Guys, I'm still not over that cold I've been having for like, geez, 3 weeks now. Let me get my screenshot tool open. People often ask what I use for screenshots. What I use is a program called Lightshot. So we'll go ahead and grab a picture of this, copy, and paste. My first question, it says PDF, docx, PNG, and SVGs are allowed to be uploaded. And what does it say to do? Upload your essential official docs to ensure secure storage and obtain a shareable link. Your logistics and data warehousing company's crucial files are in safe hands. Files undergo a security evaluation. So something's processing the files when we upload them and are parsed to scan and extract metadata. So let's go ahead and give it a shot. If I just find a random image, so like, can I open image in new tab? Let's download this image. And yeah, we'll just save it to downloads. That's fine. What if I upload this image and we also watch it with Cato to see what the request looks like? We'll go to browse, downloads. There's that one right there. I'm just going to turn on queuing and we will click upload. All right, so I already see what seems interesting. This endpoint right here is a Lambda function. We know that based on what it looks like. Lambda in AWS is like their serverless code that processes things, which you can actually perform XXE and SSRF attacks on. Let's send this over to replay. Oh, this is just an options request. So it's not going to be super helpful for us. Let's forward that. And now here's the request I'm really interested in, is this post request. So let's grab this post request. We'll turn off intercept for now. And I just want to look at this post request. So we're doing a post request to this endpoint, which is interesting. I'm going to grab that for our notes. Uploads to be processed by a Lambda function. We'll put a question mark there because I'm not entirely sure how it is processing that. Hey, I'll answer a question real quick from YouTube. YN said, if you were trying to get into cybersecurity as fast as possible with no experience or degree, what would you do if you were starting from scratch now? Well, I got a degree is what I did. That was kind of my goal. I needed to pivot careers, and I knocked out a bachelor's through WGU in 7 months while working 2 full-time jobs with kids. So it was a grind, but that's what I did. A degree does open up a lot of doors. If you absolutely cannot get a degree, I would say go through a platform like Hack the Box Academy's bug bounty path and try to do some bug bounties or CVEs. If you can get a CVE on your resume, that will really help you stand out. CVEs aren't as difficult to get as people think. I have 9 of them, and I am by no means an elite hacker. So if you just get basic web app pen testing skills, you'd be able to find some CVEs, and I think that would help you land a security job. I'll make sure I'm not missing anything on LinkedIn, which I am not. Okay, so we have this possible Lambda function, but what happens when we send the request over? And so it says, file has been successfully uploaded, and actually gives us a file to retrieve it. Let's go ahead and see what that looks like. And sure enough, it downloads the file. All right. So it seems to be processing it that way, and what stands out to me is the fact that it accepts SVG files. Now SVG, that's actually what my last CVE was about, was cross-site scripting in an SVG file in Go CMS, because SVG is scalable vector graphics, I believe what it stands for, and you can actually include code in an SVG file such as JavaScript or external entities, which is what an XXE attack is. Let's go to Hack Tricks. And we'll do XXE SVG. And we'll see if my memory about SVG files is actually correct. So we will go over this a little bit for those of you who might be new to this kind of attack. So what is XML? Well, XML is a markup language designed for data storage and transport, featuring a flexible structure that allows for the use of descriptive name tags. It differs from HTML by not being limited to a set of predefined tags. XML significance has declined, blah, 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 blah. But we have some main attacks here for XXE anyways. So in this one, we're going to test if a simple new entity declaration is working. If it is, well, ours is going to be a little bit different because we're not using any parameter here. We could actually, we'll keep scrolling down and look at some of these examples. One is to read a file. Now, this isn't going to work for us because we're not targeting a virtual machine or an EC2. We're actually targeting a Lambda function. So we're not going to read a file per se, but I believe Lambda, actually I know this, Lambda has their own metadata endpoint similar to an EC2 or a virtual machine in AWS. So one attack path, if you get access or RCE on a AWS virtual machine, is you can send a request to the metadata endpoint in AWS, and you might be able to retrieve credentials if an IAM identity is assigned to that. Well, Lambda is similar, that you might be able to receive credentials by doing an attack like that. And we're going to use a similar attack path here. But you can see, just to understand XXE, what it's doing is it's saying, hey, take etc password and then store it here. And as it's processed on the server side, it's going to actually store etc password. And since we can get our file, we'd be able to grab it that way. Directory listing, SSRF. This is kind of what we want to do. Actually, this looks like one for a cloud. Let me grab this and I can maybe walk through this a little bit. So this looks like it's for an EC2, but what it's doing is similar to that etc password, but instead of etc password, we wanted to hit this endpoint that only the VM has access to. So we can't hit this endpoint. It's a private IP. It's available in the AWS network or environment though from the affected virtual machine. So what this is saying is, hey, we want you to send a request to this metadata endpoint for latest metadata IAM security credentials, and we wouldn't know what that's going to be. It's whatever role or IAM user is assigned to those security credentials, and you'd be able to read the access key and the secret on that. But remember, we're not trying to do an EC2. We're trying to hit a Lambda function. So let's look at like Lambda function, SSRF, metadata, see if this helps us. All right, more hack tricks. So some information on metadata. I want to see it for specifically Lambda, and maybe I just missed it. All right, here we go. In this case, the credentials are stored in environmental variables, so to access them, you need to access something like proc self environ. Moreover, in addition to IAM creds, the Lambda functions also have event data that is passed to the function when it is started. The data is made available to the function in the runtime interface and could contain sensitive information like inside the stage variables. Unlike IAM credentials, this data is accessible over standard SSRF here. And I realize I'm missing some questions on YouTube, but let me jump over to YouTube. Maroon Can Fly, hey Tyler, can we get a copy of your notes? I do have some notes in the WorkSmarter Discord. I believe they're pinged in the Hack Smarter channel. Last Payne said, is it possible to create an EXE that reverse connects with TCP to trigger an RDP connection? Is there any tools like that? Not that I'm aware of, but there might be something that I just don't know about. Wyan said, what do you think makes a great hacker, and who is the best hacker you've ever seen? I don't know. What makes a great hacker is simply curiosity. Hacker, pen tester, whatever word you want to do. It's just curiosity, being curious about how things work. Because as you're curious about how things work, you begin to ask questions about, well, how can I break that thing or make it do something that's not intended to do to exploit it? So curiosity is key. Who is the best hacker I've ever seen? I'm not sure, honestly. People like the John Hammonds, the IPSECs of the world, it's always fun watching them do their magic on machines. Kelvin said, have platforms like Hack the Box, Try Hack Me, and Pwned Labs significantly improved your skills as a pen tester? Do you suggest prioritizing these platforms and courses like Hack the Box Academy for skill development? 100%. I've learned everything I know, y'all, about pen testing and ethical hacking through these platforms. I have a bachelor's in cybersecurity, but cybersecurity is a massive domain. I think I maybe had like one course on offensive security, and it was very basic, like Nmap scan and finding like a quick CVE and documenting it. It wasn't hands-on, thinking through exploits, thinking through attacks, writing your own scripts, finding CVEs. Everything you see me doing now, I'm learning as I go. And that's how I started my YouTube channel. Many of you know this. I started this channel about 2 years ago when I was brand new to the field. I wanted to be a pen tester, didn't figure out how I could get there. But I thought, hey, I'm already doing like try hack me and hack the box myself and like stumbling through it. I should just live stream myself doing it for a few reasons. One, I'll be able to meet some cool people, which I did. But when you're forced to talk as you do something, it makes you understand it better, right? One of the best ways to learn is by teaching. So what I try to do is, as I'm actively learning on stream, I'm also trying to like explain what I'm doing, and it helps cement the concepts in my own mind. So yeah, do these platforms. This is the best way to learn, in my opinion, is platforms like Pwned Labs or Try Hack Me or Hack the Box. Anyway, so in this case, the credentials are stored in environmental variables. So to access them, you need to access something like file. So that's interesting. What if we go back to this and we go over to our SSRF request here? The stock check, all that stuff doesn't really matter, I don't think. Let me grab my file. Actually, that's not what I want to do. I want to do the Etsy password one, which was right here. Once again, the stock check can be anything. I'm pretty sure that doesn't really matter too much for our purposes. But instead of Etsy password, what if we do something like this? And then it's going to pass our file down to this product ID. Let's just try that and see if it works. I'm going to do nano, and we'll just call it xxe.svg. And let's just give it a shot, I suppose. We'll go over to wherever this is. Browse. I'm going to go to home. Pwned Labs. File upload. Upload. Invalid or unsupported file type. So we actually need to format it properly for an SVG file. So I can't just drop XML. So we have to just get the right SVG file here, which this might work. What's this doing? Okay, similar to this. So let me pull this up and we'll drop it in here just so I can kind of make the payload. So we'll format it as an SVG file instead of just trying to pass it as an SVG file. And we'll pass in our file parameter here. And maybe this is actually what we're trying to do. I was getting distracted by XML. Nano xxe2.svg. Let's see if this is what I was doing wrong, ladies and gentlemen. Browse, this one, open, upload. Ooh, unsupported file type. So that one doesn't work either. I wonder why it doesn't. Let's do some more reading, some more digging. We could check out PortSwigger. See what examples of PortSwigger uses for SVGs. So some applications, actually very similar to our lab, some applications allow users to upload files which are then processed server-side, which this one's being processed by a Lambda function. Some common file formats use XML or contain XML components. Examples of that are Office documents like docx, which it also accepts .x, or image formats like SVG. For example, in an application might allow a user to upload images and process or validate these on the server, which is exactly what we have here. Since SVG uses XML, an attacker can submit a malicious SVG file and so reach the hidden attack surface. So let's go ahead and check out this lab. Not honestly to do the lab, but the cool thing about PortSwigger is we can just quickly look at the solution. I just want to see what their payload looks like here. Let's copy their payload, and I'll try something similar, nano xx3.svg, and we'll paste that in. And actually, I need to modify that so I can grab the proc environ and see if we can grab those environmental variables. So we'll just jump over to file, and we'll replace Etsy host name, since once again we're targeting a Lambda function. So it's a little bit of a different attack. So let's try this now. Okay, so that one uploaded successfully. Oh, look at that. I see some Lambda stuff there. Okay, before we get too excited and look at that further, let me just, I think it's good to include notes, like what we actually did. So we'll cat xx3, that SVG, and here was our working payload in case we run into something similar in the future. All right, so it's that, and we'll just change that over to code. All right, there's our working payload. And now if we copy home, Tyler, downloads, whatever that file was actually called, it's just called file, okay, word. Oh, because one of them was that first one I did for testing. So what's this one called? This one ends with a D. So that's the one we want. And there we go. So we actually have some information here. We were able to do it properly. So we have the AWS Lambda function. We have the session token, which is going to be important. And you know what, let's go ahead and we'll just grab this full thing and we'll kind of break it up and separate the information that's going to be useful to us. And I saw you guys asking about magic bytes. So we wouldn't need to do magic bytes because we weren't actually doing a file upload bypass. If we were doing magic bytes, it'd be like, hey, I'm trying to upload, you know, something crazy like a .exe file as a JPEG, then you might be able to change the magic byte to make it look like a JPEG. But I wasn't doing a file upload bypass because the uploader accepted SVG files. So I just needed a properly formatted SVG file. And then by extension, because it accepted the SVG file, I was able to do this attack. That's why we didn't have to actually do a file upload bypass. I hope that makes sense. So we have our AWS session token. All right, I'm just going to separate some of these variables here. Time API, Lambda, function. Okay, AWS secret access key. That's important. Did I see an AWS? Oh, and there's the access key. Okay, let's clean this up a little bit. So we have our AWS access key right there. We have our access key ID right there. And we have our session token. I don't know if I need this double. I don't remember what that looked like for sure. We'll give this a shot. If it doesn't work, we might have to look back at the file and maybe I missed something, but this might be the information we need. So the way we will configure a new profile is we'll do AWS configure profile, and I don't know, we'll just call this XXE. And our access key ID is here. Now, if you're new to AWS, the access key ID and the secret kind of function like a username and password. So there's our username, and here's kind of our password. And then we have to actually get our session token as well and paste that in there. Why is that popping up? We'll do US East 1 for our default region. And now what we need to do, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I don't think I would have anything sensitive because this is my just VM for live streaming, but I need to open up my credentials file, and I want to make sure I don't have anything sensitive, which... no, it's all just lab stuff, so I can share my screen with y'all. From various labs I've done. Here is our AWS credential file. In order to do this properly, we have to take that session token and paste it in here, kind of like you see on this EC2 one. So we'll do AWS session token, and we'll grab the session token from right here. I may have too many equals on the end. I may have grabbed one that wasn't supposed to be part of it. So if it doesn't work, we'll see if I need to modify that at all. And this is where it stores by default. If you're wondering where I got that credential file at, it is home, your username, .aws, and then credential. So that is where it's at. We have that done. So let's do AWS STS get caller identity. This is sort of like the who am I in AWS, and we want to use the profile XXE. Okay, so it doesn't work because the security token is invalid. Let me try that. Okay, it still doesn't work, which means I did something wrong when I was looking at the file. Let me grab that file. What did I do wrong? So I see our session token here. Which I do think it only needs one, because I think the other part, it might be part of the variable it's passing. Log stream. Gosh, I thought I did everything else right. Lambda function name. Default region, US West 1. That shouldn't matter. AWS secret access key. Oh, I see what I did. I copied the lang, I think. You see the language part of it? I think I copied that language part into my access key. I think that was my mistake. Let's see if I'm right. Yeah. You see the lang there? Let's fix that and try it again. Oh, we'll go over to here. Okay, maybe we need to add our other equal back. Try that. Ah. Okay, something else I'm missing. Like you guys saw the obvious thing I missed the first time, so there might be something else I'm missing. Our access key ID. Nothing confusing there. That should be right. Access key ID. Yeah, that looks correct to me. Secret access key. Am I still missing something on that? Now I'm blind. Where did the secret access key go? Right here. Secret access key. Is the I part of the language? Save. Make sure I saved. Come on. What am I missing, guys? The region shouldn't matter. What the heck? Here. Let's go like this. Let's copy this. And let's use our robot friend as a second set of eyes. Okay. So what I want to do, I want to try to do AWS configure profile XXE2 and literally just redo it and see what I may have missed. And then we'll compare it for our own learning on what I was overlooking. It was US West. Like I said, the default region shouldn't affect us for authentication, I don't think, but it is US West 1. So we'll do US West 1. And now we'll do mousepad. Well, actually, I think mousepad's already open. Yeah, we'll just close that. Oh. Mousepad home, Tyler, AWS. Credentials, right? It's blank. What's going on? Okay, that was odd. All right, and now we'll do our AWS session token, which I think I had correct before, but it needed the double equals on the end according to ChatGPT. That all looks correct, so we'll copy that and paste it in. And all right, let's see what happens, ladies and gentlemen. AWS STS get caller identity profile XXE2. Hey, we are in luck. Okay, I want to figure out what I did wrong though. Oh, what? I had the access key wrong. How did I copy the access key wrong? Oh, I had extra stuff on my access key. You guys see that? That right there was not part of the access key. That's the main thing that was wrong. I bet both of them work now. AWS STS get caller identity profile XXE. They both work. So that's what it was. Like I said, the region doesn't matter for the authentication part of it. It just matters for resources. So that didn't matter. It was because I read the access key wrong. But here we are. Now we have a role, this S3 put object role in this Lambda parser. Let's go ahead and grab a screenshot of this. All right, so we have access to that. Now we can try to enumerate some of our role. And the best way to do that is, well, I am role enumeration AWS, because I always forget the syntax. And of course, there's a blog by the greatest pen testing firm, Rhino, and we have Hactrix Cloud. Let's see if this one will help me. We could also brute force it that way. Oh, that's in the actual console, so that's not going to be super helpful to us. That's kind of what I'm looking at. So we have our role. Let's look at roles. Let's try this one. Underneath list roles. So we want to pass it the role name. That one, and we'll say with the profile XXE. Oh, sweet, that worked right away. So what can our role do? S3 put object role. Role ID, it allows to assume a role, allow Lambda functions to write objects in the huge logistics dump bucket and read from huge logistics processing. Okay, so we have access to a couple of things here with this role. Let's go ahead and grab this and drop it in our notes. So this is our role information, and we can just change this to JSON maybe. And so we can write the huge logistics dump. So that must be where it's uploading those files. But we can read from the huge logistics processing bucket. So let's see what is in this AWS bucket. And the way that we can do that is AWS S3 LS for list, S3 again, drop the name of the bucket, and then give it our profile of XXE. And sweet, we have this temp IT bucket. Let's see what is in here. Oh, and look, looks like we completed the scenario. We have SQLite database here. It must be sensitive information, and our flag. To make it realistic, let's download both and see what's actually in there. And the way we'll do that is if we'll first download the SQLite database with the copy command. And we'll do the data service SQLite. We'll just copy and paste that since I have a bad habit of doing typos, as you guys can see. And we'll copy that. We might be able to just cat it out. And yeah, so we can at least see what is in the table. And it looks like we have some credit card details of different customers. So obviously a bad day for them. And let's go ahead and get our flag so we can officially complete the scenario. Flag.text. And there is our flag. We'll go ahead and copy that. Open up Pwned Labs. I think I probably have to re-authenticate due to the session stuff. Let me verify I am a human being, I promise. And we can drop the flag in here. And there we go. We have successfully completed the scenario. But for those of you who know Pwned Labs, we're not done yet. Let's look at the official walkthrough. Let's see if I did anything differently. And let's see if we can understand some of the real world context of this. So let's go through this real quickly. So we've already kind of went through the real world context. So one thing that I will add is I have seen this multiple times in real pen tests. Probably the coolest case of XXE working was, if I could pull it up, Hacktricks. There was an example in here of attack I did in a real web app pen test that I thought was pretty cool. Let me see if I can find the right one. So yes, it was this. On a C2 server, so a server with a public IP, I hosted a malicious DTD file, which is part of being able to exfiltrate the data because it's going to reach out to this that had etc hostname. And then I uploaded something similar to, well, not quite like that one. I'll let you read this on your own. Here it is. So then I uploaded to the vulnerable server where I found the XXE this, and it processed from my C2 server the malicious DTD, document type definition or something, I think is what it stands for, file, and then it actually sent me back on my burp collaborator URL. So you actually needed 3 servers to make this happen. I was able to read etc hostname, so I had full file read on the affected web server. So once again, like, yes, this is a CTF, this is a lab that we're doing, but I've seen this in the real world in the past year doing real web app pen testing. So starting with Nmap, that's what we did. We saw port 80 and we logged into it. Yep, we did all that. We found the file upload and we played around with that ourselves. Took me a little bit to get a working SVG file, but I eventually got it. Let's see how close theirs looked to the one I used. So just showing, hey, here's how it worked. Here's what a SVG file format looks like. So here is the one they use, which I think is very similar to the one I used. Mine was just more on a one-liner, but essentially the same exact thing. Upload the file. Yep, we got those creds once I figured out how to actually read it, thanks to ChatGPT. And then a next step could use a tool like AWS Enumerator to identify our permissions by brute force. However, we already know about the role, so let's enumerate that first. And I'll actually show you guys. Let me show you a way you can do, if you don't know your IAM permissions, you can brute force it. It's noisy, so you wouldn't want to do it in like a red team engagement, but you would be able to do it in a pen test because it's okay to be noisy. What we could do is use something like Paku, and we will do a new session, and we'll call this session, we'll just call it XXE, and we will set keys, or import keys rather, import keys XXE. And now if we search IAM, we could run IAM brute force permissions. Now it's going to take a little bit. I probably won't even show the end result, but what this will do is it will try all of the different IAM commands, seeing, hey, what does our role have access to? It's going to brute force all of them so we know what permissions we have, and it will do it in all the different regions for things like EC2s and along those lines. So that's what that tool is doing. I'm guessing this AWS Enumerator tool is similar. Enumeration, dumping investigation, credential use. But here, okay, so I already see a weakness of this tool. You have to specify the region. Now you could do your own little for script in order to do all the regions. What Paku will do though is it will do it in every single region. This is important for region specific resources such as like an EC2 which is a virtual machine in AWS. You need to check every region to see what permissions you might have on those virtual machines. But I just kind of guessed it because we knew that we had a role based on the name. And then the first role enumeration command I saw in Hacktricks was this get role right here. And so we saw we could go ahead and grab the data from our huge logistics processing. And we grab the payment data as well as the final flag. So let's see if we can understand defense. The main issue in this scenario was a custom XML parser that was found to be vulnerable to XXE due to the resolve entities true configuration. So here it is right here. And there's really no reason for that I could imagine. Like, I don't know any reason why a company would need to actually process external entities like that. Maybe. The company may legitimately need to enable external entities, maybe for the purpose of data integration. Okay, I stand corrected. That would make sense. In certain scenarios, SVG or other XML-based files might contain references to external entities, allowing the system to pull in data from external sources. However, this presents a risk, and so access to the Lambda function at the network level should only be given to the specific systems it interacts with, right? The principle of least privilege applies not just to people, but to servers and functions. In this case, the Lambda function was accessible to everyone. The JavaScript implementation of the Lambda file upload function would be better handled in the back end, allowing us to restrict access to the functions only accessible by the EC2 instance. To mitigate this vuln, they should set resolve entities false in the XML parser configuration if this is not needed. Additionally, it's important to perform further validation and sanitizations on user-provided input to ensure its safety. Another issue is that the financial details are stored unencrypted. That is an issue. And the cool thing about Pwned Labs is there's often a HackerOne report connected to it, so we can see it in a real bug. So here's SVG file upload leads to XML injection. On top coder, upload avatar option allows the user to upload an image, thus enabling the upload of many file formats, including SVGs. Their XML attack, so yeah, they could do cross-site scripting. They could do XXE if, okay, so they were actually processing external entities, and then the DOS attack, the billion laugh attack, I'll let you read that on your own. I'm surprised they got this to work on here. So they're doing the SVG file, put request, send a put request. I want to see their payload. So here's their payload. This is the SVG of my public server. I create another username testing, upload avatar, added the picture link, blah, blah, blah. I wonder what they got for their bug bounty. Yeah, I agree with this. So worth noting, you're unable to retrieve sensitive internal files. So honestly, more of an informational. The one that I found in a real web app pen test, I had full file read on the underlying server. But none, that's full-blown LFI. If sometime in the future the company decided to store sensitive info on the bucket or decided to move the image to some other server, then sensitive info can be fetched. I also like to point out I can do cross-site scripting, but even here, the cross-site scripting would be limited to the S3 bucket, so that would also lower the severity of that because it's not actually executing on the website. Should run directly on the client browser. Okay. So, I mean, interesting, but I agree with the severity here. It is low because they weren't able to read internal files, but often you really can if you find this in the way it's being processed on a server, and that's what we saw in this really excellent scenario, like all the scenarios from Pwned Labs. But that is the end of this file upload XXE to initial access. Hope you found this walkthrough helpful. Hope you were able to do it alongside of me and you learned something with me as we were working on this lab together. But hey, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.